Hello friends, happy Friday. So today I'm going to be doing a little unboxing slash walkthrough of this really cute present that my mom got me when she was visiting a few weeks ago. And she wanted me to unwrap it with her so she could see it. But I was like, no, I have to do it on YouTube so everyone can see my real-time live reaction. So I have actually never owned a round tarot or oracle deck. It is definitely more common with oracle decks, I would say, to have them show up as these kind of interesting circular decks. So I'm really curious to see how this is going to go and how they've cropped the original Rider-Waite-Smith. Very interesting concept. So I don't really know what to expect. This is going to be my first circular deck ever. And let us begin. So we're going to do a little walkthrough as well. So let's see here. So apparently there is a little companion booklet by Sasha Graham. I don't know who that is. I think the package is actually really nice. I like this little box. It seems like pretty hefty. It seems like the cards are going to be well taken care of in here. It's not a flimsy box that's going to fall apart. So I'm just going to use my nails to crack this open and hopefully not actually mess up the box and just get the plastic part. Ooh, it has like a nice texture to it. It has a nice texture to it. The box feels pretty nice. So let's see what happens when we open. This is what we get. No design on the inside. The box feels like thick and sturdy, which I really do love. And so it has this little like thing to kind of help us. Ooh, pull it out. I'm just gonna like flip it. It's kind of in there. It's in there. Oh no, why is this stuck? So it seems like there's kind of like a velvet inside for it, and this like is trying to help us pull it out. Fuck. I'm trying not to pull out the velvet thing. You guys can see what I'm kind of trying to do here. All right, there we go. There we go, done. And so within this, it looks like there is a little booklet kind of inside, which is really nice. And then we can kind of pop this out with this. So, okay, cool. It's cute. It is by Lo Scarabeo. I always pronounce that wrong in my head. I don't know if I'm like part dyslexic or something. But here we have it. And so you can kind of see inside this little, it feels like a velvet. Is it velvet? I don't know. It kind of feels like it could be styrofoam, like a black styrofoam. I'll kind of see what that looks like. So I don't know. I don't know if it's velvet. I feel like it's not velvet. It feels like it's velvet, but I think what it actually is kind of like almost like a black styrofoam. And actually, I feel like it would have come out nicer if it was velvet. But the feeling of it is, you know, at first it does feel kind of velvety, but it isn't. So it's very interesting packaging because it looks at first glance very luxe, but it's not as luxe as it seems. Just so everyone knows. And Mom, if you're watching this, I still love it, so don't worry. So here is the back. I actually really love this as a back of these cards. Really nice. We see this kind of English style rose. And now let's see if I'm able to open this with my nails without damaging any of these cards. This is going to be interesting. And look at, my mom just texted me, actually. That's funny. Okay, let's see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to open this with without causing damage to it. With just my nails. Let's see. I've got like a little pen. I'm just going to try to There we go. Okay, so I just used this like side of the pen, plastic side of this pen to kind of open that just a bit. So now I'm just going to pull this apart, this plastic part. So that's all done. And so now we see the deck itself. I do love this as a back. A lot of the typical Rider-Waite-Smith kind of has this like light blue plaid pattern on the back, which is not my favorite. It is classic, but I actually do prefer something like this. I think it's really, really quite beautiful. It is just the same image, I think, on repeat, which is a little bit less ideal. I would have preferred if this was actually, you know, hand painted all these different times, but I understand since they're working with a historical deck, they can't really do that because the people are dead. So they have to kind of just reproduce the image again and again. So here we see the front, and let's just peel that off. So that is just something, I guess I'm gonna, I don't know if I don't want to throw that away, but it's gonna fuck up. Oh, this is actually really cool. So it looks like they have kind of extended the image, right? Because usually this card would end kind of like right here. You know, it would be like this on that side and then, you know, like this on that side. So you can kind of hear it. Okay, so actually this is really cool. I really dig this. So thanks, Mom, for getting me this present. I'm really digging it. So that we starting off with the major arcana. So that's obviously the Fool, the Magician. Pretty interesting to see these images kind of expanded. And I feel like, let's see. So it says Arthur Waite, Pamela Colman Smith, and Sasha Graham. So I'm wondering if Sasha Graham is just listed as the person who wrote this book, or if she also was the one to kind of extend this art, or if the in-house designers at whatever. Okay, no, okay, so here you go. It says circular adaptation by Pietro Eligo, Chiara oh God, I'm not going to say this right. Chiara DeMagistris. Sorry to whoever that is, my bad. Graphic layout also by that person. So, okay, so it looks like the text is just by Sasha Graham, and then the circular adaptation is probably by in-house designers at this publishing house. I'm really digging this because obviously this original does not have all this water that we can see on either side and doesn't have the clouds. So I fucking am digging. I'm digging the vibe. And so anyone who is here watching, like, are you digging the vibe? Because I'm hella digging the vibe. I think these are fucking cool to see these kind of expanded landscapes. So I think it does, especially for the High Priestess, you know, it really does give us a better sense of what this card is really all about. Like, I love this. This looks cool as hell. And let's see, next up, obviously we had this one. Cool. And then the Emperor. Really awesome. Honestly, I love the composition of this. I don't know what I was expecting, but this is like way better than I was kind of expecting. Hierophant. Very interesting to see these kind of on either side, the way they've done it. I dig it. Lovers. It is so interesting what the additional spaciousness does kind of to the vibe of the card. Like, I'm so into this. And I never really thought I'd be someone who was into like circular art, but I feel like they've really done an amazing job with this already. Chariot. Love this. More context for the energy of this card. So cool. And for anyone who is watching live, let me know, like, what cards are you really excited to see? Strength, of course. Dig it. Simple. And this one they have added some stars to the Hermit, which I do like. But I wish they had done it with less pristine line work, because I feel like it kind of looks a little bit like it's from another universe. I wish these lines had been thicker for the stars, a little bit more handmade kind of quality to it like the rest of the line work. So for me, that's a little bit of a miss. I'm being a little bit nitpicky. Love this Wheel of Fortune. Really cool to see those clouds expanded. More context for what this card is all about. The coloring looks a bit off on this one. It looks a bit too dark. But that's all right. Justice. A little castle in the background. Next up, we've got Hanged Man. Really lovely what they've done with these compositions. Honestly, I'm very impressed. Death card. This one feels a little bit more cramped. Actually, it's interesting because a lot of the other ones that we've been through so far feel kind of more spacious than the original. But I would say this one, since there is a lot going on in the Death card, does feel to me a little bit more cramped than the original card. And so I actually might have zoomed this one out a bit rather than zooming in if I was the designer. But alas, I'm not, so that's all right. Love this. Temperance, the Sagittarius card. Yeah, I feel like that's nice. I feel like the wings are like a bit more extreme than on the typical. And here we have the Devil with kind of fire added to the sides. And we've got the Tower. More fire, more clouds, kind of expanded. We see the Star. Still really lovely. I'm really digging, though, these compositions extended to the sides. The Moon. Love this. The Sun. Judgment. The World. And then we're moving into the suits. So we've got Ace of Cups. Feels so different as a circular composition. Two of Cups. Three of Cups. Four of Cups. Five of Cups. Six of Cups. I like this composition as a circle. And Seven of Cups. Eight of Cups, the breakup card. Nine of Cups, Mr. Happy Happy. 10 of Cups. This one works really nicely as a circle. And then we've got the court cards. Page of Cups. Knight of Cups. Queen of Cups. The coloring on this one looks a bit off to me. It's a bit dark. And we've got King of Cups. Works really well as a circle. And actually, I love these without any of the words or whatever. The handwritten text. I like them as just images. Ace of Pentacles. Two of Pentacles. Works actually really nicely as a circular composition. Three of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles. Five of Pentacles. Six of Pentacles. Seven of Pentacles. Eight of Pentacles. Nine of Pentacles. 10 of Pentacles. I feel like this one is a little bit of a missed opportunity for how they did the expansion. I think it was probably the weakest one yet. Anyway, though, Page of Pentacles. Knight of Pentacles. Queen of Pentacles. I like this one a lot. King of Pentacles. Not as strong, but still nice. Of course, we've got the Ace of Wands. You can kind of hear them peel off of each other. Two of Wands. Always an interesting card. And the Three of Wands. This works, I think, really nicely with this composition. Three of Wands. Lovely. Four of Wands. One of my favorite cards to pull. Lovely. Five of Wands. I think this works quite nicely as a circular composition. Six of Wands. Interesting what they've done to the people's expressions, which I don't think are really clear in the original. So that's interesting. Seven of Wands. I think this works nicely. Eight of Wands. I don't know if you guys can hear it peeling. Like they're really stuck together, the cards. Eight of Wands. Nine of Wands. And we see a fire in the background here. I don't know how I feel about that choice, but 10 of Wands. Page of Wands. Knight of Wands. I think this works quite nicely as a circular composition. Queen of Wands. Very simple. I think they could have done a little bit more with that, but that's all right. Oh my god, I think these two are stuck. There we go. King of Wands. Could have done a bit more with that, I think, too, but Ace of Swords. Two of Swords. We see some birds added on the sides. I actually really do love what they've kind of done with the additions to this one. Lovely. And this is actually, for those of you who don't know, the inspo behind the cover for my new book. So in case you didn't know, that's the inspiration. My tarot people obviously already knew that. Anyway, Three of Swords. I like that. Four of Swords. I like that one too. Five of Swords. More grumpy clouds. Six of Swords. Moving towards calm waters. Seven of Swords, a sketchiness card. Eight of Swords. I like this one as a circle. Nine of Swords. 10 of Swords. I think this works quite well in this composition. Of course, the Page of Swords. I'm curious how I'm going to read reversals with this, because it's like, since it's circular, you can kind of read it like a little bit backwards, a little bit forwards, fully reversed. So it kind of gives you like a little bit more data than just upright reversed if you want it to. I don't think people have to read it that way, but I think I probably would. Knight of Swords, Queen of Swords, and then the King of Swords. I like that. So, okay, now I'm going to try to give these a little shuffle and just like see how they feel in the hand. It feels like my hands are not huge, so this does feel a little bit like challenging to kind of like get my whole hand around it. Like it feels difficult. Like my fingers, like my nails are giving you guys this optical illusion that my fingers are longer than they are, but my hands are actually not that big. So that's something to kind of keep in mind is like, to me, my fingers can do it, but it's almost not possible. And even then I kind of feel like I'm like losing grip. You can see it's some kind of falling in the middle. So that's something to kind of keep in mind depending on how big your hands are. If you are someone with small hands, I think this is maybe a little bit too big. I think it's barely something that my hands are going to be able to deal with. So let's just see. The cardstock to me feels good. Let's just try to give these a little shuffle. I've never shuffled a circular deck, so I feel like I'm just going to drop these all over the place. Let's see if I drop any. This is how I usually will shuffle a typical deck. So let's just, yeah, I feel like I'm going to like drop all these cards. Does it look like I'm going to drop them? I feel like it does. I feel like I really have to focus. I just dropped them all over the ground. So let me pick these up. So yeah, that's probably going to happen. I feel like this is probably a deck where you're not going to want to shuffle it like that. I feel like it's a deck where you're probably going to want to swoosh them all over the bed or all over the table or something, because since there is like such a minuscule point of contact on like each of the points, like it is really difficult to shuffle. Like, I feel like if I'm not going to drop it, because I just dropped it for the person who just logged on, you're going to have to be really slow and make sure that you're kind of getting it exactly right in your hand. So I find it a little bit big for my hands, like a little bit too big to be really comfortable and at ease. I feel like the shuffling is challenging. I feel like if it was a little bit smaller, just a little bit, by like half an inch, it would be a lot easier to kind of keep control of in my hands. But the cardstock feels good. The thickness of the card feels good. Doesn't feel too flimsy. It feels like they're kind of glossy enough where it kind of slides nicely. So it doesn't feel like they're too flimsy. It doesn't feel like I'm going to break any of these cards while I'm shuffling. It does feel like I'm going to drop them though. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. I don't know if anyone watching has experience with these kind of circular decks. This is my first circular deck, so I'm kind of new to this. I do love the way that they have worked with the images though. So I feel like the artwork is really awesome. I love the way the artwork is handled. I love the way, especially with that High Priestess, how they expanded the image on each side. I think they've really done a good job. There's only maybe a handful of cards that I was like, I think they could have done something a little bit better with that, or it looked a bit like heavy-handed, or just the reproduction was not ideal. But I think generally speaking, they've done a really beautiful job with this. And as you can see, I'm like having to keep these really close to my chest now to not drop them. But they do feel, oh, there we go. And then this is the card we get for today. I was actually going to pull a card for today. So today we get the Magician, one of the first cards in the entire deck, Major Arcana, obviously. And so if we're going to have this as a message for today, for anyone who is either finding this video randomly or here live, I would say if this is our card for the day, the Magician, today is the day to make our outsides match our insides. Today is a day for manifestation, infinite potential. You have everything that you need in your toolkit to have success at whatever it is you're going to try today. So not to get too in depth into big reading, but I do think it's a great day. The energy of today, I think, is really good to really begin to manifest and work on some of these things, like as within, so without, as above, so below. That's what this kind of movement is all about. And so we also see all of these 4 different suits on the table. So how can you mobilize your solid relationship to all these 4 suits today as you're going to be off doing whatever it is that you're doing? So I'm just going to leave that there for y'all. Oh yeah, and for anyone popping in late, this was my favorite one that they've done. I just think this is so great. Transforms the meaning, I think, in an awesome way. Like, this is kind of always the meaning that High Priestess kind of alludes to for me. So I love it. This has now finally been visualized in this gorgeous way. So something else to think about too with this deck that I think gives experienced, likely intermediate to advanced readers some room to play is, how do you read the reversals, right? Because like, we're going to get the reversal, and then we're also going to get sideways, and we're going to get to this, and we're going to get to that. So it's going to be kind of, you know, counterclockwise. It's going to be a little bit tilted forward. It's going to be a little bit tilted backwards. And I think it'll be interesting to see, how do people choose to read that? You know, it's like, we can see it as like moving towards being blocked, moving towards being unblocked. Like, there's going to be a lot of different ways to interpret that. So I think honestly, it's something I would have to think about and just like work with intuitively with this deck, and just see like, how does it land? How do the cards feel when they kind of come up in that configuration? Because upright and reversed is kind of very minimal in terms of what you can pull with this, if that is kind of what you're doing. If you're swooshing everything around on the bed or the table or whatever, and you're just making a big kind of mess and then pulling it from wherever, you are going to get a lot of interesting configurations in terms of upright versus reversed. It is going to be a lot of potential there. And so I think for the advanced readers, there is, I think, an intriguing opportunity in terms of reading into that. Obviously, you don't have to. Reversals, not everyone does them. Personally, I think we should all read reversals, but it's, the question is like, how do you incorporate reversals into a round deck? And I think everyone's going to have a different answer to that for themselves in their practice. There is a deck that I used to read with that, I think it's called the Dark Days Tarot, and it was a square. And so it would come up in 4 potential different configurations. And that is something I used to read a lot. And so I think I would probably take some inspiration from that style of interpretation, the square tarot deck. So that's this. Does anyone have any questions? I know there's a few of y'all here live. Is there any cards that we missed that maybe we want to see? But honestly, I think this is a really fun deck. I'm really glad my mom got this for me. I just love the expanded illustrations. I think the circular composition on a lot of these works really, really well. And then we have this little booklet, which I'm dropping. Maybe I'm just dropping everything today. So I want to see, let's see. Actually, I'm really curious if they have any intentions in terms of, you know, let's see. It says, we can understand much better the holistic nature of the card when it appears to us in a feminine circular shape. When interpreting a circular card, a softer approach is encouraged and rough edges are smoothed away. The strict distinction as when a card is upright versus when it's upside down fades away, replaced by a nuanced feeling. It feels almost as if the figures in the cards are leaning towards one or another direction. While a rectangular shape suggests an intense, active, direct, masculine focus on the figures in the foreground, the round shape suggests a more gestalt attention to the feelings received by the whole card. So the landscape is wider and offers greater perspective. The focus of the card becomes holistic, receptive, intuitive, feminine. Is this better or worse? It is different. I agree with that. The circular edition is not meant to change tarot, but rather to provide inspiration, transform the habit that readers may have unconsciously created when looking at the cards. I think that's kind of cool. What else do they have to say that is interesting? Let's see. I don't think they really say. Okay, let's see. How to read a circular deck. They've got some thoughts here in this little mini book. So it says, it is completely legitimate and entirely appropriate for you to turn the cards right side up to read once you have laid them out. This way they won't be pointing all over the room and confusing you. If you're just beginning, that's probably what you should do. Blah, 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 blah. But that's not very interesting. I think that's way more interesting to actually read it with all of those options. It says, examine the cards like the face of a clock. If the card's center is pointing above 9, 3 o'clock, it is upright. If it is below and between 3 and 9 o'clock, it is reversed. Using reversals, of course, is optional. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it says opposition, delay, blockage, extra attention. Okay, this is interesting. Moving with card directions. You will likely design your own intuitive system of reading circular cards. Once you read upright reversals with ease, you can move deeper in the direction that the cards point to. I think this is interesting. So that she has it as past, future, shadow self, and challenge. You know, depending on which direction, let's say, the card is pointing. I think that's interesting. So I think this is actually, it creates some opportunities for some seriously advanced style of reading tarot, and actually a more nuanced, specific data from the cards. Because sometimes when it's just upright or reversed, like, you really do have to rely on the skill of the reader to figure out, you know, what's relevant, what type of reversal exactly is it? Is it a blockage? Is it a delay? Is it, you know, a nasty iteration of what the card means upright? Like, what's the vibe? And a lot of, let's say, amateur readers get that wrong if their intuition is not good, or if they're just not familiar with the symbolism. But I feel like something like this, if you are advanced or if you're intermediate and you're looking for a challenge, like, I think this is actually a really kind of cool, interesting opportunity to go a little bit deeper, you know, really interesting. I really kind of dig that. Yeah, so it kind of will tell you by its positionality, according to this little key, what exactly is going on in the card. If it's not directly up, down. So that gives like 6 potential ways of reading the cards depending on the configuration, right? It's like typical upright, typical reversed, and then we have these 4 other options. So it gives us kind of like six different potential ways of understanding what the card is all about. So that's pretty interesting, you know. So they've got, oh yeah, actually that would be like 8 different things, because now she's giving some examples of, actually, no, wait. She's including like the full part as each of these things. Interesting. And then, okay, this is interesting too. So then now she's talking about attracted cards, like cards kind of pointing towards each other, and then repulsed cards kind of pointing away. And so this is the type of nuance and like specificity that you can't really get with a non-circular deck. So I find this fascinating, because this is truly, like, I would say, opens the door to a really advanced, in-depth style of reading, like where you are taking also this into account, because this is like, you can kind of take this stuff into account a little bit, upright, reversed, but when we really put the circle into play and you have kind of like tilting towards, tilting away, it really does create a lot more kind of infinite number of possibilities for how these cards are kind of configured and pointing towards each other, pointing against. And you can kind of see a little bit more directly where the energy is flowing, I feel. And she has cards converging and cards diverging, which is interesting. So here's the example of that. Has anyone watching read with a circular deck before? As I haven't. This is my first circular deck. And so, okay, let's just see. Now there's a bunch of spreads. Okay, we don't need to know that. And then there's like the interpretations. We don't need to know that. We already know that shit. So, okay, this section, how to shuffle a circular deck. Shuffling may flummox certain readers as circular decks like to roll away. True. She says use the card soup method of shuffling. Okay, that's kind of what I was saying. So place the cards face down on a flat surface and begin to mix them randomly. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying that you would have to do, unless you want the cards to fly everywhere. So that's cool. I agree with that. Okay, and then it's in a few other languages, which is irrelevant to me at the moment. So I find this really interesting as a deck. I dig it. It does seem like a really advanced way to read. And so I think this is going to confuse the living daylights out of people who are brand new with the tarot and like don't really understand how to read upright versus reverse or any of that, or don't really understand how to read like what is the balance of what is present and what is not when it comes to the elements, when it comes to numbers, when it comes to all the other symbols in the tarot. I think being circular is going to confuse the fuck out of people if you're new. So keep that in mind. But if you are someone who is more advanced, like I do think this is fucking really neat in terms of the possibilities and openings that the circular kind of like, is it going forward? Is it going back? Like what direction is everything going in the spread? Like I think it does create a lot of fascinating opportunities for interpretation. I'm actually really excited to try this out with an actual reading and just kind of see how does that go. So yeah, that is my unboxing and walkthrough of this very interesting deck. So let me see if I can, you know, put it back into its little box as you guys can see. This is a little box, cute little circular box. Gonna try to put it back in here. It was really hard to remove. And it looks nice in its little box. And then it was hard to remove though. So hopefully next time around it's not as hard to remove. And so then we're gonna try to put this back in. And it actually is a really nice little box. This is easy to remove. I think maybe slightly too easy to remove, but really awesome. So actually, I think this is really cool. Thanks, Mom, for getting this for me. Really awesome present. I think a great present actually for anyone who does read tarot in your life. Great present for yourself. Really fun, especially fun for someone who is advanced. Maybe less fun for someone who is new. Like if you're new, this is going to probably give you a migraine or a stroke or something. So, you know, your mileage may vary, but I think this is a really exciting challenge for anyone who does have a lot of experience with the tarot, who is getting a little bit bored of the tarot, who has mastered reversals, and maybe you're looking for something a little bit more spicy, a little bit more interesting to experiment with. I think this is really, really awesome. So thanks, Mom, again. Very cool. The circular edition of the tarot, very cool. Highly recommend checking this out. I'm really looking forward to trying some readings with this. All right, friends, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. And if there's any other decks that you want me to do a little unboxing or a walkthrough so you can kind of see what the vibe is, I'm happy to do it. Let me know what your recommendations are. All right, y'all. See you soon. Bye.